Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Capital Improvement Committee meeting for September 10th, 2020. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm sure who we have on this evening on the Zoom. We have Sean on there and Peter Stone.
Yep.
Hi. Okay, great. And we have Jay Mankara here with the NRPC. And obviously, we have Andrew Cutter, Mr. Weber, and Mr. Bork. All right. And of course, Troy. Good evening. So I did have an opportunity. I don't know if the other members who are listening online had an opportunity, but I did have an opportunity to go watch the meeting that I was not here for. I do have to apologize to you folks. That was unexpected on my part. Unfortunately, things happen, so I couldn't make it. But I want to thank Steve for chairing the meeting. And I know you folks last time had gone through the ranking of different projects. I did take some notes on that. And I know that this evening we're probably going to look at that again and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Before I start that this evening, is there any public input? We'll do this first. Any public input from members of the public wish to comment this evening?
Mr. Chair, other than Chief Sergeant, there is no other members out here. Okay,
thank you, John. Okay, so before I begin that, Troy, is there anything you want to say first of all?
No.
Okay. All right. So you folks, I noticed you went through the ranking, and obviously starting with GMS. Obviously, the two big priorities right now, GMS and the police department. Both of them would require an urgent ranking. I would agree with that. I just wanted to find out from the other members if they have any questions about that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, do you
Yeah.
want to do minutes first, given our agenda?
Sure, we can do that. Unfortunately, I don't have the agenda up in front of me, so I'm kind of winging this.
So we have the minutes for 8/17 as well as August 31st.
Okay.
8/31.
So we'll do the minutes, approval of the minutes, if you have them. I think I do have that here. Hold on. Okay. So we'll do the approval of the minutes for 8/17. Does there anybody have any questions about the minutes for that meeting? And if someone wants to entertain a motion to approve them, we can do that.
Motion to approve the meetings of August 17th.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Do I have discussion? All right. All those in favor of the approval signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Abstained? Okay. Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 6-0-0.
Five.
2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. 5-0-0. Sorry. Okay. All right. And this is not coming up.
Now we have the minutes from August 31st.
Yes, so I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as well.
Motion to approve the minutes of August 31st.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Do I have discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval of the minutes for August 31st, please signify by saying aye.
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 Just by point of reference, can those who weren't here approve
think so.
minutes?
They should
No,
abstain.
You should abstain.
We're in a-
Oh, that was the last meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So,
So it would pass 203 if the 3 members abstained.
right. So, all right. So motion to approve the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstain, aye. Motion passes 203. Thank you.
Now, the priority of projects.
Now we can move on to the business at hand, right? Okay. So we started out with GMS as an urgent concern, obviously as a priority for the for projects. I just wanted to know from members, Sean, do you have any questions or anything about that? Anything that you would like to ask, and you as well, Peter? Do you see
I
that
had a
as
few questions further down the list, but in particular about the first and second priorities, I don't.
okay? All right. Why is my computer not coming up? All right. Okay. So I would agree. I think GMS is would be categorized as urgent in this particular case. So I'm certainly on board with that. I know other members, you guys had already decided that you felt that it was urgent. So that's the first one. Does anybody have any questions as we go along in terms of that issue? Anything that they want to add? No? Yes? Maybe so? Okay. The police department was next. I know you folks decided that it was going to be urgent. I think that's certainly true in terms of the situation right now with the present police department. So I think we should classify that as urgent. Sean, do you agree? Peter, do you agree?
I agree, that's urgent.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else that they want to add about that from last time?
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. The next one was the fire department. We had the issue of the truck from 1991 that had to be replaced. I know that Troy recommended that as be urgent. There was discussion about it being necessary, but I think there was a recommendation that it was something that would be put onto the urgent category. I would certainly agree. I think that the age of the vehicle requires that it be replaced at some point. So also we have the other fire engine truck, the 1995 fire engine truck. I understand that was talked about as being desirable. I don't know what the board's feeling is, that if that's still what your feeling is on that. Sean, Peter, feel free to, if you want to ask questions. I know you weren't here at the last meeting, so I'm just going through the list of projects. So, do you agree with that? Do you think that's acceptable? What's your thoughts?
I agree with both of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was what we had discussed before as well.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else want to add to that discussion? Okay.
Now, what I would like to do, Mr. Chairman, is at the end, once we kind of go through and vet and certainly hear the opinions of Mr. Stone and Mr. Flynn. Thank you. I'd like to roll in some of the comments that we're hearing thus far on the planning board survey that went out, because there are some comments that were put out there regarding the police station, regarding the fire
Mhm.
apparatus, et cetera, that I think it's important us as a committee talk through. But
Absolutely.
we can save that to the end after the review.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Right. Okay. The next item that was discussed is the annual road improvement program. That was, I guess you folks decided it would be necessary. I know that there was discussion about it either being an operating, dividing it up between operating budget and warrant article, where the operating budget would be necessary versus the warrant article, which was really, I could go necessary or desirable. I think that it would probably be necessary. I think that's an adequate ranking for the operating budget part. And as to the warrant article, I guess you could go either way, but I think it's probably necessary for that. Of course, that I guess would be a question for the taxpayers.
So I have a question. Are,
Yeah, go
are those two line items independent of one another, or are they kind of one or the other?
They're independent of one another.
Yeah. So.
So just as a reminder, right, sorry, just as a reminder on how that works, I know it's been probably several weeks since we've last talked about it, but the town receives a block grant that is included in the budget. That's the first item that you see there, operating budget for $200,000. Now, of course, that could change, right, depending upon what the state provides, but typically it's been about the $200,000 mark. And so although that's a budgeted item, it's offset in revenues. In terms of when we do the actual town budgets. In addition to that, it's been a standing practice over the last several years, not including the past year, but the last several years prior, to also ask an additional $200,000 to the voters for the voters to vote on through a separate warrant article, so we can keep up with the road improvement plan, right? It's estimated to need about $400,000 a year for us to keep up with that road improvement plan.
Gotcha.
Did I explain that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on that, gentlemen, that you want to talk about? You good with the decision? Okay. All right. Next was the backhoe. We talked about highway. Highway and solid waste, but I think highway particularly. You've decided to put that as categorize that as necessary. Does Peter or Sean agree with that assessment? Or
I agree.
okay, I would agree, as certainly for the highway purposes. Anything else from you folks about that? Okay. Let's see. We talked about that. Okay, then we have trucks. The vehicles, there were 3 vehicles. We have the new plow truck, which is scheduled for 2021, that to be added to the fleet. There was a discussion, I think, about whether that truck would remain reliable. That it is like was it 2000? Is that the year of the vehicle?
Yeah, so these 2 trucks that we're looking at trying to replace in 2021 would be that medium-size, heavy-duty truck that doesn't require the operator to have a commercial driver's license, but it still have a front plow and a wing plow and have a sand salter installed on it. And obviously, you can see the 2 trucks it's replacing is a 2000 and 2009. I'm sorry, the 2000 and the, where is it? The other one is replacing the 2000. The other one is a new truck that we need to add to the fleet, just because of the growth in the community over the past few years. And then as we look into the future, but you have to look at the growth that's happened in this town over the past years. We haven't added any trucks to the fleet. And in addition, we've seen that the private contractors, they're just not there today. So they're not stepping up with their own private vehicles, with an operator and a private truck. The private trucks that we are getting, they're not always in the best condition. So they're not reliable for snowstorms. So, really the town needs to transition to something where we have the trucks, we know they're reliable, they're set up the way we need them for our operation. And, we either have our own employees or contracted employees operating them. That ideally, I think that's where this town needs to be heading. And that's why this plan was laid out that way.
So is my understanding that, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so you're talking about new plow truck, which is, let's see. So it's right underneath the 2009 plow truck. It looks like we have F-350, an F-450, an F-350, and then a 2000 and a 2009 plow truck. Are these all plow trucks?
Yeah, so they're the two that you're looking at in year 2021, that $14,000 cost for the lease purchase.
Yep.
That represents taking the 2000 plow truck as your typical truck that you see in New England plow truck. It's a big truck, requires a commercial driver's license to operate. It's those big orange trucks that you see the state and the towns operating.
Gotcha.
We're proposing to take that type of truck and actually go to the next size down, which really wasn't available. It's a new style truck that's become available in the last few years. It doesn't require a commercial driver's license to operate it, but we can still equip it with the same size plow and wing plow and sander and salter. And they're also four-wheel drive. So we feel that it's actually going to be a better tool to use in Litchfield, where a lot of our streets are narrow, a lot of our streets are cul-de-sacs, and operating those big plow trucks is actually difficult to manage unless you got years and years of experience operating those old plow trucks.
Right.
So Troy, I didn't notice this last time, but so on the 2000 truck is $14,076.
Yeah.
But you're trading that vehicle in, right?
Yeah, that's a 2000 plow truck. We put down that, maybe we could get $5,000 trade in.
That's the
Right.
big orange one that's barely passed this
Yeah,
inspection, right?
it's
Right, but you're looking to trade that in to buy the new plow truck for $14,076.
yeah. So
They're
that'd be
not-
the first year payment.
They're not taking the credit on the trade, right? You're not seeing that credit reflected in the price of the lease.
No, but I'm seeing the cost of that truck they're trading in going across every year.
Mhm.
It's a lease purchase, so we're proposing to lease purchase it. Is that what you mean?
The 2000?
No.
The new truck that would replace the 2000.
Right, but why are there dollar totals on the 2000
Oh,
across?
we threw in there that maybe it's worth $5,000 trade in, and that we propose an $8,000 lease.
And why you're seeing it, you're seeing the current, the 2000 plow truck is the current vehicle.
Mhm.
The 2021 and forward projections are the cost for the replacement of that vehicle. So it's the description of the current and the dollar amount is the replacement cost.
I guess I still don't understand it because down below it's an 8-year lease for $14,076.
Yep.
Why is that same dollar amount on the line with the truck? they're
It's
trading
actually
in?
two different trucks. One of them is a brand new truck.
No, yeah.
And the other
I
one is
think
the
what-
replacement,
what
is a brand new
Brian's
truck
trying
to
to say is
replace
one's
the
a trade-in,
2000.
one's a buy outright.
Yeah, I think what
It's a description issue.
I think really what's happened here is that the 5K trade in, it's not really factored into the cost of the truck. It's just there for
So
information.
on the line that says 2000 plow truck, that's actually going to be replaced with another truck for $14,000.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Gotcha.
those should be identical trucks.
Yeah.
based on the one that we just purchased, and we hope.
So the line should actually say then trade in 2004, a new
Yeah.
plow truck.
Correct, yeah.
And we just, I think for informational purpose, said, hey, you might be able to get $5,000 trade
I
in.
get that. It's just, it's misleading as far as, it looks like you're getting rid of a truck, but it's still costing the same price as a new truck.
Right.
Got it. It's actually two trucks.
And just for point of reference, right, the new, I think for those that were here, it's clear, but maybe not for those who missed the meeting, right? The new plow truck, 8-year lease, the one with a D for desirable, or, desirable. That was coded D because it is for the expansion and the coverage of the new residential areas in town, where the existing fleet that you see on this master plan here, the remainder of the trucks are labeled as N or necessary, because we already have current vehicles that are serving that duty. It's more about replacement and upkeep, and continuing maintenance of those vehicles.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line items for trucks. Am I reading this correct, that 3 of them are plow trucks and 3 of them are other kind of service trucks?
Yeah, so when you get into, when we talk a plow truck, we mean a truck that probably pretty much is dedicated to just plowing. When you talk about those 350s and 450s, those can be a pickup truck or like a flatbed utility truck.
Gotcha. But they wouldn't.
Like, they're
service
typically
on
like
plow.
the landscaper trucks, or pickup truck or a landscaper type truck that you see landscapers using.
Gotcha. Are they used to supplement the plowing in the wintertime?
Yes. Yes. They have sanders in their bed, and they have front plows that they don't have as a wing plow.
Gotcha. We were using plow and truck interchangeably. That's why I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. So it looked like the new one was going to be desirable, and because of the replacement of the current fleet would be a necessary for and that's where I think that's where you folks
Agree.
want to go.
That was the decision, but it's ultimately up
Right,
to
no,
those.
and I'm, like I said, I mean, it's up to the other members as well. Peter and Sean, do you agree with that, or do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. And obviously, if we're getting stuff that's 20 plus years old, it probably needs to be replaced.
Are there new neighborhoods coming online like for this winter?
So we'll have Weatherstone, the Weatherstone development coming on next year. I expect that the board will be accepting all of those roads for winter maintenance next spring. And we have a development, Firefly, that's just recently been approved, kind of almost across the street here from the town office. And then if you look back over the last, 5-6 years, there's been streets like Hamel and not Rookery, but Heron, and I don't know, there's some other developments. Those have come online, and we've never increased our fleet to accommodate that. So, and then, so it's not all about the growth, the future growth. We've had growth that hasn't actually been addressed too.
Gotcha.
Would you be, Troy, would you be in agreement that the new one is desirable and replacement of the current fleet is necessary? Would that
Yes.
be something that you would?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to get your take on it.
No, I think it's important to get that 2000 plow truck replaced.
Mhm.
And then that's something that needs to happen. And then adding that new plow truck is definitely desirable. And I think it can accomplish a lot. Like I said, the biggest thing is that we're finding the private contractors just don't have the trucks anymore. They don't have the operators with a CDL, and we can't hire people with CDLs. And we've got to get ourselves into a different type of truck to give us more flexibility.
All right.
So is that, do I understand, is that desirable for the whole 6-year projection, or can it be put 2 years or 3 years?
I think it's desirable for, are you saying for 2021, if we start getting, a couple years out, then, I think you start getting yourself into urgent. And you also got your F-350s and 450s that they're kind of the backbone of the operation too. They're being used year round, and those are creeping up on you. So you got to be careful, because you could be hit with a request for, four vehicles in 1 year.
Right. Well, I guess the only other question I would bring up is, I know we were talking about staggering vehicles when we had the fire department discussion a while back. And maybe that's what Sean was alluding to. Just maybe stagger them out a year or two, just so that we don't overlap and we have the place at the same point.
Well, I think,
Sure.
yeah, I do think that, my discussions with the road agent is that we haven't had a great replacement plan schedule in place for the past 10 years. And so there's a lot of work to do here over the next 6 years to get ourselves positioned where we can literally start staggering the replacement and really try to stabilize that annual capital cost, so that it's almost the same cost every year, the best you can, with, factoring in cost of manufacturing and everything. But that's the goal that we laid out for 6 years here, is to get ourselves to a point where then we can literally manage the fleet, just like the police department does their cruisers and the fire department does their fire engines.
Okay. So it's like a rebuilding phase here.
But these purchases are staggered. You've got some started, in 2021, then 2022, 2023, and 2024. So they might not be perfectly staggered. You're going to have payments bunching up in the out years, but the year of acquisition is staggered.
Yeah. They're staggered, but let's state the obvious here, right? If it's approved in 2021, then it rolls into the operating budget, and then you're adding it in 2022, and then that gets added to the operating budget. So the operating budget just grows and grows and grows. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're staggered on their sheet. However, to the taxpayer, it's not staggered.
Yeah,
At one point, you will have all 6.
Correct.
Yes.
ultimately, what would work really well for us, and I think when we put this together, we were trying to replace the pickup trucks, those like the 350s and the 450s. We like to have those that have a life expectancy of 8 years. And we get into a system where every 8 years they're traded in, they have a good trade-in value. And then we flip them and do another lease purchase. The medium duty and heavy duty plow trucks, we'd like to have a life expectancy of 15 years. And even after that 15-year period, because they're pretty much used for snow removal, they still have a good trade-in value. And we've used the best portion of the life of the truck. So avoided a lot of, the heavy maintenance cost. And we've got to the point where we're dealing with rust and unexpected expensive maintenance costs. So if you can get yourself into a schedule where it's your lighter trucks are 8 years and the plow trucks are 15, then your heavy duty equipment like the backhoe and the front end loader are anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 years. That's a great schedule.
Okay.
So are you guys good with the ranking then?
Yeah, I'm good with this.
Okay. The next item was the loader, if I'm not mistaken. And that one, you guys voted was necessary. And then the salt shed was desirable. Sean and Peter, do you agree with that assessment?
I'm good with the loader.
You good with the loader as necessary?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry.
all right.
And that was one loader that's used in two different departments? Or
That's,
was that for one?
so it is. The backhoe is the one that's used in the solid waste and highway on a daily basis, 7 days a week. The front end loader is primarily
Okay.
used, it's primarily used by the highway department. However, it is used for solid waste operations, moving around the, the burn piles and other types of debris that's down in the yard. So that the front end loader would be used to push that stuff up in piles and transport it to different areas. And the front end loader is also used for plowing. We actually have a plow on it, and it's a great tool. We can put, what is it, like a 12-foot plow on that and go right down the pavement because of the power of the front end loader.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on that? Anything to add?
Not on the loader.
Okay, what about the salt shed?
Yeah, it's also.
So I guess I need an explanation on the salt shed because I don't think we had caught up with the highway department last meeting, I would say.
So,
This was discussed last week.
so the salt shed is currently right now, we can store, about 200 tons of salt in the shed. So when we get into back-to-back storms and you have a tremendous amount of stress on supply throughout New England, we have to be very careful, that we're getting deliveries on a daily basis. And there's been many times when we're just simply not able to get the deliveries and there's a shortage. So it's always, in the best interest of the town to be able to, at this time of the year, stockpile, at least maybe 40%, 50% of the salt that you anticipate using. And then it allows, also the problem is we could use the area that the salt's stored in right now. We could use that for storage of some of our equipment. Some of our equipment is being stored outside, not undercover. So it's trying to accomplish a couple of things here. But the most important thing is just being able to stockpile the amount of material that we need for the upcoming season.
Gotcha.
I can tell you right now, it's stressful when every single town and city in New England is low on salt and everyone's trying to get it. And there's only a couple suppliers in New England. It's pretty much dominated by one or two suppliers. And there's so many trucks available to truck it from like Portsmouth and Boston to all these areas throughout New England.
Right. And what are we storing now? 20% of what we need? It's doubling the size of what.
Yeah, we use about 1,800 tons a year, and we can put about 200 tons in the storage shed.
Okay. I agree this would be desirable.
Was there a reason why it wasn't necessary? I'm just curious.
Because we have a shed now, right?
Okay.
And what we're talking about is expansion 2,
Okay.
right? To have more quantity on hand. Because we have a shed at this time that is serving the town's needs, although might not be as efficient as the town would like or desires. That's why we call it desirable.
Okay. No, the reason I asked is because, I mean, obviously it's hard to predict. I mean, with storms and everything, winter coming, and how much you're going to use, and what's the amount of salt you're going to use. But being it that we do live in New England, it's something that's probably, I guess there's an argument and go either way. It can be necessary because it's a necessary because we it snows, so you have to expect that. But I think I understand what you're saying in terms of.
And I mean, at the very least, I mean, they can cover equipment up and help extend the life of the equipment since it's not sitting out in the elements as well. So see that aspect too.
All right. So everybody's good with desirable. I have no objection to it. I'm just bringing it up, the fact that, it could go. You could make an argument for either one. Okay. Recreation, the repaving parking lot at Dara.
Before that, Mr. Chairman, I think we have the highway parking lot for 150,000.
Yes.
Let me see if I missed that.
The line right above Recreation
Yes,
Commission.
you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, so the highway, okay, right. So the highway,
So this is the resurfacing of the highway department parking lot area. So I think the idea is once they have a new salt shed plus this equipment, right, at some point, the maintenance of that asphalt will need to be updated and redone, which is why this is a line item.
okay.
Again, I think from a committee perspective, what Mr. Burke, Mr. Weber, and I were talking about a couple weeks back at this point was, it is already paved. We can make do, right? So it's not necessary. It is, we have a desire as a town to have it redone and to maintain it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it should be in conjunction with the salt shed. That's what we talked about. If you're going to be
Correct, which is
doing
why
the construction, you might as well do it all at once.
Yeah.
So I guess there was the issue of putting the dollar amounts, leaving the dollar amount in. Was that the idea?
Well, the dollar amount is in. It's actually, I can kind of see it behind the WebEx here. I don't know.
It's funded in 2026.
2026. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
Thanks, Russ.
I'm good with desirable for that.
Okay.
Okay.
What about you, Sean?
Excuse me, I agree with desirable.
Okay. All right. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, here we are. Okay, so recreation repaving parking lot Dara. That was categorized as desirable. Peter, Sean, what do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
Is it just the part that's paved now, or is it an extension of what's not currently paved?
It's
Presently, nothing is paved
Just dirt.
until you get onto the other side of the fence, and then you just kind of have a roadway that's paved
Yeah.
3/4 of the way down. It's about the basketball courts.
Yeah.
And if you go there in the wintertime, it's an ice skating rink.
Mm-hmm.
In the spring, it's
So is this to do the dirt lot itself, or is this just to upkeep what's already laid down?
dirt.
This is what I'm asking.
Dirt lot.
it's drainage and the associated repair of the dirt, but replacing it with asphalt.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yep, I agree. That's desirable.
And I would agree also. So. Library, I think that one was sort of put in the research category.
Yeah, so I'll tackle this one. So, the three of us talked on the 31st, right? We felt that we still need more information from the library in order to make an educated decision on how to plan this. There were still some question marks about the long-term, governing agreements behind the Aaron Cutler library establishment in and of itself. What are the intended long-term purposes of those agreements? Is there an opportunity to continue to look at other towns and their library services as kind of an alternate option to a $3 million new library facility? So there were just a lot of question marks still. And with that, we talked about making this an R, which stands for research, which also, just so everyone can see this clearly on this spreadsheet, but it also zeroes out the dollar amount in terms of planning.
Okay. Does that allow for it to be picked back up once they've completed that research?
Well, I think the challenge, it's a great question, right? So I think the challenge is if this committee labels it an R, right, which I'm supportive of labeling it an R at this time, right? But if this committee decides to vote on it and label it an R, you won't see those dollar amounts in the capital improvement spreadsheet, right? And the challenge becomes, should the library need to be replaced or something, pressing happen, how do you make the case to the citizens on the new library facility if it wasn't forecasted or planned for in the capital improvement master plan itself?
Gotcha.
Now, didn't also leaving it at R kept it within the plan, but if we did not fund it, it would have been dropped off the plan. Was that another reason why?
I don't know, Jay?
Jay?
That's not
Well, if
funny.
that's the case, then we need to make it $1, right?
Right.
Well, I
So
thought
there's
there
some
was
positive
one
value.
classification, if we gave it, it actually dropped off the plan, and we didn't want it to be dropped off the plan.
Correct. It's in the plan. It just says research, but it is included in the plan. There will be a description of it. And when the CIP is revisited, which I do think is the intent, should additional research be completed, there are firmer estimates. Perhaps some of the issues that have been raised have been addressed. You can always add a dollar amount back in.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. Nope, I'm good with R then.
I'm fine with it, so. All right,
Just apologies,
go ahead.
Mr. Brown, have you heard from Vicky at all on this?
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
To be honest with you, I don't know if, was that conversation with Vicky?
We did ask questions
So I don't
directly
think I've
to
communicated anything
Vicky
to
when
her.
she presented, and we have not heard an update.
Okay, because I've not
Correct.
communicated directly. to
Just
her.
before they're,
Yeah.
perceivably we're going to vote, right? So before we vote, I wanted to make sure that there were no other updates that we just weren't aware of as of yet.
The next item was the Conservation Commission. There was discussion about deferring it, but then there was a decision made by you folks that are going to, as desirable, to keep the dollar amount in.
Just for point of reference,
Go
if I may, and I'm reflecting back to when the Conservation Commission was here and we were throwing out ideas about how to fund this, et cetera, right? When we're talking about planning, yes, this is the plan amount for what the original request was. One of the ideas was to plan, instead of the $2 million ask, $1.5 million that was thrown around, and actually was accepted by the Conservation Commission, but we still have $2 million in this plan, just for point of reference.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Check me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
You're right.
Yeah.
I thought when we had that conversation also, she was requesting 200K year over year. Or was
Yeah,
that
then we had made a
something different?
decision that
Yeah,
we
we were going to do.
we were going to fund it $666,666 in year 1, 3, and 6.
Right.
Was our final decision that we made.
And that was just to more evenly spread out the ask over the planning period, 6 years.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I guess the question to the committee is, do you want to keep this at 2 million? Is there an opportunity here to reduce these line items so we can take out 500,000 from the planning?
2 million was their ask, correct?
2 million
Well,
was
2
your ask.
million was the asking, yes, that was the asking price, that was the request.
And I think with everything else, we didn't change any dollar amounts.
It was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Then, I think we had that conversation before. I mean, if this is what they asked for, I guess that's what we got to go with. So,
Okay.
I think it was a compromise. I think that's where there were
Okay.
some that disagreed and that should be the 2 million, and there was others who didn't.
Well, and again, it rolls in the whole conversation about them having $700,000+ already in a trust fund specifically for their intended purpose of land acquisition.
Right, and I think that was sort of where that discussion was going, so, yeah.
okay.
So that's fine. I mean, sounds,
I'm good with the desirable for the land purchase fund.
okay. So that's the town portion of the, now, I don't know, do you want to hear from Jay first, or Jay, do you have anything to add to this discussion before I?
I know, I think it's very consistent with the discussion we had previously, so nothing to add at this point.
Okay. Do we want to vote officially on these for the town before we go to the school? That way, we made a decision based on this board. Is that something that you guys would agree to do? Just vote, basically, whether it's urgent, whether it's desirable, whether it's necessary for those items that we just discussed. Now that
You'd
we-
also be voting on the bottom line numbers for the town across the 6 years, correct or not?
Well, we would, well, if that's the will of the board, yeah. I mean, what I'm doing is looking specifically at the municipal part first. So just that part.
And just the rankings, but not the dollar amount.
The rankings just to keep it so that we're voting on it as a board, that we've officially voted, that's going to be our position.
Okay, so the rankings and not the totals is this first vote.
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so number one, GMS. I entertain a motion to approve that category as urgent.
Hold on.
Well,
Now we're doing it.
Are
GMF,
we doing Now I'm
Oh,
confused.
Jesus, I'm sorry. No, forget it. Let's go to police. Police department.
Why don't we just do them all?
yeah, we can do them all.
Just do them all at once.
All at once.
Yep, that's good.
So do you want to just go through the school and then just vote on everything? Is that what you want to do? Okay, we can do that. That's fine. I was dividing it up, but,
Well, you can vote on the town prioritization first, all at once, and then do the school, or do it all together. I mean,
well, that's it. That's what I was saying. If we could do the town first and then,
I'm comfortable either way.
Yep, I'm good either way, whatever.
okay.
so why don't we do that? I think that's a good suggestion by the chair, right? If you just vote, but not individually, just vote on the town all at once,
Right.
on the rankings only.
Okay. So I guess I would entertain a motion then, as we've discussed this evening, as to the rankings that have been presented tonight, to approve those rankings as we've discussed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Do I have discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the rankings as proposed signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Those opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 5-0-0. Okay, so that's the rankings for the town. So do we want to do the dollar amount next? Is that what we want to focus on? The dollar amounts as presented?
Yeah, we can just finish. the
yeah, we
town
should
up.
probably just do the top section of this line item, and move to the school.
Okay, so I'll move on then to the Can I talk about GMS? No. So let's see. All right, so the first item would be GMS, which is urgent, obviously. That's the number one priority right now. So are we good with that? I assume the board is good with making that be as a category urgent. Sean, Peter, if you agree with that? I know that you guys
I
already
agree.
discussed it, so,
Yes.
I would agree as well, so. Then you folks talked about energy efficiency, whether that was going to be urgent or necessary. So I guess there were questions about that. I think you mentioned LMS was urgent.
Yeah, right. So I think what we were talking about is actually, Mr. Burke, you're probably the best one to speak to this, right?
Well, it's like it's like a big snowball. It all depends what happens with GMS. But of the three schools, I mean, put GMS aside, LMS is in the worst shape as far as functionality. CHS obviously is 20 years old. You get LMS that's like 50 years old, and right now their systems are in pretty dire straits. There's actually one component of just the airflow system that they're looking at right now. It's going to be anywhere between $25,000 and $85,000 to replace. So LMS is definitely in the worst shape of the two schools with the GMS aside.
Okay. So it looked as though you folks were decided, well, that LMS was going to be the urgent one, and that then Campbell was necessary.
Right.
That was my.
Yeah, I mean, LMS as a building isn't going anywhere, right? Regardless of GMS being the priority for this committee, LMS is still going to be a fully functioning school for the next 6 years, period, right? But with that, there's serious concerns about their HVAC as produced by the school board and the recent HVAC reports that were put out, right? There's material deficiencies that need to be addressed. I think that's partly why this is rated as urgent. Some of these others, and we get to a little bit more color on this page with some of these ratings, right? With the N's and the DRs and the I's, et cetera. Right. Some of that is because it's all contingent upon GMS. Right. And so if GMS happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then what? Right. And that's why you're seeing some of those ratings and some of those prioritization rankings, as listed, but certainly open for committee discussion.
And no matter what happens, the GMS, LMS systems still need to be upgraded.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why we have it as urgent.
Okay. Sean, Peter, are you good with that?
I'm good with that for LMS.
I agree.
Okay. I would agree as well. All right.
That was a sigh.
The parking lot at Campbell High School.
Now you have CHS next,
Oh, sorry.
energy efficiency is necessary.
That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, CHS. So CHS is a necessary. I think that's certainly agreeable. Obviously,
That's the same thing
It's
as LMS. It's still an HVAC update and
Correct.
whatever
Yeah,
other
it's-
efficiencies there are.
it still needs to be addressed. I think that's the important piece.
You know, Dr. Jetty says it all the time. And even though CHS is the newest school, it's still 21 years old right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the time it's fixed, this is going to be 22, 23 years old, right? So, I would encourage everyone, if you haven't done so, I know it's been posted a couple times at this point, mentioned a couple times, but go through those budget walkthroughs when we walked through the schools last year, right? It's really eye-opening when you go into kind of the boiler rooms and the mechanical rooms of these schools and the various switching mechanisms that are all over the walls to control zoning. Some work, some don't. It's actually quite impressive, right? And the labor-intensive job required by the support staff, by Dave Ross and others, to do that is beyond impressive.
And obviously GMS is beyond urgent. So if there's any question of that.
Urgently urgent.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys good with that, Sean?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm good as well.
okay. That's fine. Parking lot at Campbell High School. That was categorized as desirable. You guys have questions about that?
Yeah, which part of the parking lot is it?
The entire parking lot, my understanding.
So you're gonna resurface the whole thing for 85 grand?
No,
I thought it was the entire parking lot.
I don't think it's a recent. I think it's probably
was
a. Is it a seal?
I was gonna say, that's a bargain.
You're right, but
To
I
do
don't
it
think
tomorrow.
it's, yeah, I don't think it's a repaving. So I'm not sure exactly what's involved. I think, like you said, it might be just like
A seal coat.
seal coat and crack
Yeah.
fix.
Oh, gotcha, okay, so it's a.
And there's
maintenance.
there's a few parts like in the back near the track I know that are deteriorating that they want to rebuild back up.
Gotcha. So it's a patch and seal,
Yeah.
essentially. Okay, yeah, I'm good with that.
The kitchen at LMS. I guess there was a discussion of that's necessary or desirable. I guess it's a matter of workspace, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
tight quarters.
This was a
and-
bump
they
out
have a
request
lot
or
of-
something on the building, if I remember correctly.
What was
Been a
that?
while
What was
since
that?
we
I'm
talked
sorry,
about this.
Peter.
Is it an addition, a bump out, like an expansion?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the plans were as far as expansion. I don't know if they're going left and right or out towards the parking lot, but it's just, it's quite tight quarters as far as working conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. And, okay. I guess the consensus was it was to be desirable, to make it desirable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Did the school board make a decision on that, Brian? I don't know. Did
On,
the kitchen issue?
yeah, we did in our capital plan. That's why it's in here. That it was,
Well, I mean, what, did you have discussions with the school board about? Was there any issues that came up in terms of this?
the rankings, you mean?
Yeah,
No, haven't had a discussion with them yet.
okay, all right,
Only because we didn't have a quorum last time. It was just two of us that were
right,
throwing letters around. So
Okay.
our next meeting
All
is
right.
Wednesday.
gotcha. Okay. The next item was the bleachers at Campbell High School.
Yep.
And I guess there's,
It's safety issues and mechanical issues.
you looked at as necessary?
Yeah.
Okay. Has this been an issue for a while, or do you know? if
It's just been ongoing.
It's just an ongoing thing. It's consistent.
Yeah. Yeah,
21
I think
years
we
of
had a
in and
pretty
out.
detailed description of the bleachers when we did that review.
Yeah.
I remember properly. Welding and other kind of MacGyvering to keep them running. I'm good with that.
Okay. That's fine.
It's my turf field, DR. Is that dreaming?
Campbell High School Stadium turf field. That was categorized as deferrable.
Dreaming.
I said it was urgent, but
Yeah, okay, well.
This is the one where Brian, we had a lot of negotiation on.
didn't go well for
And
me.
DR is defer.
It is, yes. DR is deferrable, I is inconsistent, and N is necessary. Those are the following
Gotcha,
rankings that you see
okay.
here. Yep.
Can we get the highlights of your and Brian's bickering back and forth?
Sure, watch the August 31st speak.
Play the tape.
It was actually a short conversation.
Very short.
I think at least the three of us were in agreement on this. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, I'm fine with defer in lieu of the other more pressing items for the schools.
Okay. And then there was, I know there was a discussion about contingencies. So if the middle school,
Well, they're all contingent on GMS.
they're all contingent on the,
These next three are all, if GMS doesn't happen,
then this happens. Okay.
or some of them do and some of them don't.
That's why they were zeroed out for dollars still in the plan, right? Because it's all contingent. So if GMS fails, then you're going to see dollar amounts associated to those line items.
They have asterisks next to them, and we're gonna have notes within the plan explaining it. I think
Okay.
that's how Jay
Right,
explained
I
it to
remember
us.
something about a footnote or something, yeah.
Do we have an estimate on when this would then, when these three items would fall into the plan schedule?
They would fall into the plan schedule if GMS fails.
And that would be.
So they'd be the following year?
I suspect so.
They just go automatic.
So 2024, right?
2024, because GMS is 2023.
Voted 23 and be in.
Okay.
All right. And the same for the GMS parking lot.
Yep.
Same contingencies. Getting rid of the portables. And capital reserve fund.
Repairs, yeah.
Yeah. So increasing the fund essentially to 100,000 a year.
It's an additional 100,000.
I guess there was discussion about drawing down funds as to keep replenish the fund as it goes along.
Right.
So there's, my understanding was two capital reserve or two funds, a maintenance repair fund, and then a capital reserve, my understanding, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
This one's for repairs.
And this one's for repairs. All right.
And what's the other fund at? The same amount?
No, that one was just established. I don't know what that amount is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember.
There was also a discussion about whether the 100,000 would
I think it's
cover-
50 grand.
I think that's
I think
what
one
it
was
is.
50.
The other
one
one
was
was
50.
Yeah.
There was a discussion about the 100,000, whether it would cover the, I don't know, the maintenance or repair.
I think we mentioned like a roof. I mean, putting an additional 100,000 in on top of what's already in there. I mean, it's not even going to cover any like major situation that might arise.
Again, we talk about
Example.
CHS
Case
being
in
a
point,
20.
just the electrical go at
Yeah.
GMS, and that was $70,000.
Yeah. You have a
Yeah.
21-year-old building,
It's
right?
coming soon.
Roof's 21 years old. What happens when you have a building that's 20 years old? Well, you still need to start thinking about roof, septic, right? Bigger ticket items that you need to plan for.
Right. Okay. Sean and Peter, are you good with that assessment?
I'm still thinking,
Okay.
just based on some of the, I mean, I'd almost, I don't know. I've heard people that are not super thrilled with just having open-ended monies floating around. Understood that they're supposed to be specific use. But we did have quite a few of them in the spring, and there was some grumbling about it. I'm just wondering if there's a better way to tackle this.
Okay. I know it was categorized as a necessary. I think, is that what you guys came to the consensus that was necessary?
But if this
No,
goes
I mean,
into
I
a
think
fund
to
that's
everybody's
allocated
point,
just
I think
for
from a
repairs, it
maintenance
has to be
standpoint,
used for
obviously we
repairs.
needed to be
Well, that's the
prepared
benefit.
for
Yeah.
That's the benefit.
eventualities. I'm just wondering if there's a better.
Well, I think Mr. Weber just brought up a good point, as well as Mr. Burke, right? I mean, these capital reserve funds, they're going to warrant to the voters, right? But they're for a very specific intention, right? So this repairs reserve fund can only be used for repairs, right? It's not like these funds can be allocated to other purposes.
Totally
Because,
understand.
yeah,
There was just quite a few of them in March. And
there
I
are.
heard lots of people talking about them, right? So.
And you can blame me for that personally because of my tight budgeting skills.
No, I'm fine with it. It's just, people get queasy when they start seeing allocations for this and that, they're not directly tied to anything, understanding that maintenance events are unknown before they happen and trying to get ahead of them before they happen. And sometimes it's not going to be adequate to deal with it. And I totally get that. I was just, my gears are just spinning because I remember
And
in the spring. And
the alternative is to not fund this, right? To zero it out. And then as needs arise, the respective boards are going to need to figure out where to get the money from for the repairs, whether that's tapping into, dollars that are already in reserve funds already established, or you finding some way to fund it temporarily until the next vote and then trying to replenish those funds.
Right.
But when you have a significant systemic failure that will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, even $70,000 is a big nut for the school to absorb, right? For a replacement transformer that was not expected, right? They need to figure that out.
No, I totally get it. I mean, it's no different than what we were talking about earlier with the salt, right? Everybody's like, oh, do we really need to put salt in the shed and have it on hand? But I'm pretty sure Troy will attest to when he's running around like a madman trying to source it and nobody has it, probably not happy, and he's probably not looking forward to fielding unhappy phone calls. So I totally get it. It's just, these are balancing acts.
True. I usually just make negative
Was there just a
mumble
reason
comments for budget committee.
for this?
I deserve that one.
Was there just a recent vote on this to add some funds to the facilities reserve fund?
Yeah. So in March, if I recall, it was $50,000 that it's currently in this account.
Yeah, that's the reason I was bringing it up, because we saw a few. The cooler side conversations were not happy. But, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we have to account for it somehow. I mean, you're right. If the roof leaks at the school, what's going to be a bigger complaint? The Warren article or the fact that it wasn't able to be handled appropriately?
I just think, it's a fair point, right? It's a great discussion to have, right? That's the absolute intention of the planning committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think in my view, it would be worse to go to the town and say, well, we just had a $500,000 systemic problem with one of our facilities or multiple facilities, God forbid. And oh, by the way, there's nothing we can do. We need to have you approve $500,000. At least this way it's planned for. If I think back on our vision statement, I was just flipping through, seeing if I still had our vision statement. I don't have it with me. But one of the comments or one of the line items in our vision statement is in a fiscally responsible way, right? I don't think we're doing the town any favors by not planning for this, right? That's my view.
I agree. I mean, so is this a parallel to the other one, or is this just that becomes one?
It's in addition to.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's the same fund. It's adding funds to it.
gotcha. Okay.
I think it is important. I mean, I think these reserve funds, I mean, as long as they're earmarked specifically for whatever amount of money that's going in there for that particular purpose. Because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. And if you don't have that, that financial backing or whatever to do anything, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Case in point, that fund just got zeroed
Wiped out. Yeah.
and you still needed to find another $20,000 to pay the line item.
So,
Brian, what are you doing with that money, man? All right.
Yeah.
I'm good with this.
okay. Yeah, I think it's appropriate. I think it necessary is definitely a way to go. Okay. So that, I think, that's it, I think, right? I think those are all of them. That's for the school side. So anybody have any other things they want to add or any questions on that?
Can I bring us back to the middle school kitchen?
You want to go back to that issue? Sure.
what is the renovate? You know, it's desirable, but what, is it too small for looking to build on? Is it new equipment?
No, it's not equipment. It's just expanding the workspace.
All right. And will they, if that happens, are there plans they'll move back in and do more cooking there? Or, I haven't heard anything about the real reasoning.
I think it's just right now, it's tight quarters as far as working, that they can only get so many individuals behind the counter. And it's just lack of space. And they've been struggling with that for a while.
All right.
I think when they were doing food prep, they were running in each other because they're prepping on both sides of spaces and other things. There was a big description. I remember we went through this as well.
That seems to be necessary.
Yeah.
Seems to be necessary because we had just stated that school's not going anywhere for a while, even with the new elementary.
Yeah, I think, if I reflect back to our conversation with the 31st, I know this is also a little bit of a point of contention, I guess, if you want to call it that, because after we talked about this and debated it, and I put out the public notice of our meeting summaries, right, there was some commentary made that, no one has talked to the LMS kitchen staff on this, right, wrong, or indifferent. That was the comment, right, and that, the LMS kitchen staff doesn't feel that this is an actual need. Right. So, we're debating something that's in the plan versus the reality of the ask here. Right. So whether it's desirable or necessary, to me, it's one or the other. Right. I mean, desirable, I think, was the ultimate decision, at least amongst the three of us as we talked, because, again, we have a functioning kitchen. Does it have adequate workspace? Likely not. Right. Or maybe not. But it is functioning, it is working, it is serving our kids today in its current capacity. And in addition to that, all right, let's think about in 2023 or actually 2025, in the event that GMS is voted for and in 2025 is operational, right? That also means that at the LMS facility, you're going to lose grade 5. Right, because the new GMS will be K through 5, not K through 4. So ultimately, there's going to be less kids going through LMS in the event that GMS passes.
Gotcha. That's good.
All right, well, that makes a big difference, I guess, that the actual staff, that I guess it sounds like you were saying it wasn't coming from them in particular.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know. I'm just hearing based upon what commentary is being made. So trying to blend in what we're hearing from the public and make sure that's a part of this as well.
Yep.
All right, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay.
So I think next up is the school prioritization rankings or in voting.
Right. So the next thing we would do is vote on the
Letters.
Yeah. So going through this and having discussed this, do we want to entertain a motion to approve the ranking as it's been decided tonight?
I'll make a motion to accept the rankings as stated on the school districts
Okay.
portion.
I will second.
And I have a motion. And I have a second. Do I have discussion? All right. All those in favor of the ranking for the schools, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Okay.
How do you want to do the dollars?
Sure.
Do you want to split between town and school or just do bottom line?
Well, why don't we do the town first and then we'll do the school?
Okay.
Is there any survey feedback that we should hear before we do the final vote?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we could do that. Sure. Jay, did you want to chime in on that?
I have not summarized the survey yet because it hasn't closed. I can tell you at this point, last I checked, we had 120 comments on the survey overall, but I have not gone through them individually at this point.
So I took the opportunity to review them around 12 o'clock today. So, it's not current within the past 6 hours, but I think I got the gist of what a lot of people were saying, right? There's ultimately, and rightfully so, there's a lot of question marks about taxes, about dollar impact, about the actual prioritization, about, really what this committee is tasked to do. There has been some other items that were raised that residents would like to see that were not discussed or as a part of this capital improvement plan. Things like adding sidewalks from down Pinecrest, from Albuquerque down to 3A, right? On that specific suggestion, great suggestion that was brought to the voters a few years back and failed. There was also, hey, we really want a community center. Okay, well, the community center was brought to vote or brought to not an actual facility, but the actual idea behind it and whether the townspeople would be behind the idea. That was brought in March. That failed. Right. So there's some other ideas that are being rolled into the commentary on this survey that the town has entertained and has been voted down by the townspeople at the March elections. Right. So, of course, they can be reconsidered, but they haven't been as a part of this plan. Additionally, the police station, there's a lot of commentary, and I know, I believe Chief Sergeant is with us. Chief Sergeant, you're a trooper for sticking on as long as you have. There's a lot of commentary from the public on the survey itself. I don't know if you've seen that, Chief, but ultimately the town and what the commentary is out there is that they're behind the school, right? The school is the ultimate first priority. Nothing else will get funded, will get voted on until the school passes. And I think that's ultimately kind of the direction of this committee and what we've talked about anyways. So I think that's, a nice alignment. There's a lot of question marks out there about the $6 million cost. Why does it cost so much more than the fire department, right? And the new station that costs somewhere in the ballpark of $3.75 million, right? Why is this $6 million? Obviously there's a lot, and as we've talked about as a committee, there's a lot that goes into a police department. It's not just the actual four walls and a roof, right? It's the cells, it's the ammunition rooms, it's the multiple facilities and space and storage requirements that are required. It's the
Requirements for chain of custody.
Yeah, custody, and exactly. So there's just a lot more that goes into a funding an adequate police department, which is why you're seeing a rough estimate of $6 million. Now, in addition to that, to those who are watching, right, one of the ideas that we've socialized amongst our committee, I know the chief is also exploring this, is there another way to reduce the cost of that facility? So what you're seeing in the survey that went out to the town is the cost of a new construction facility that would be phase 2 to the fire department, which was the original kind of design of how that facility was structured. But is there an opportunity to reduce costs and maybe re-outfit town hall, right, and put other meeting space for the town hall facilities as a part of this to reduce costs? So I know all that's still a big question mark and still being evaluated, but that's part of some of the feedback that we're hearing. Fire trucks, right, and the fire apparatus. There was a comment out there about, I keep on hearing age and 30 years old and 31 years old, right? That doesn't make it inoperable, right? Yes, it makes it old, but it still works and is serving the district. So why would I get behind replacing something that's operable, right? So you're seeing some of that feedback. Anything to add?
No, you pretty much got it all.
All right.
From what I was saying.
So ultimately, in summary, I think there's a lot of heartburn about what the next 6 years look like in this town. In my personal view, budget committee aside, and as mentioned time and time again, there's been a lot of Band-Aids in this town for many, many, many years, right? And at some point, the Band-Aid wears off. And at some point, you need to address the core problem of what you're trying to solve. Unfortunately, because there's been so many Band-Aids for so long, you're seeing things like a very large price tag with the new elementary school. You're seeing a large price tag associated with a new police department. You're seeing 30-year-old fire apparatus that needs to be replaced, highway department equipment that needs to be replaced. And, it's catching up to us. And the longer this is deferred, and there was also some commentary, I should also note that, we saw a new elementary school come to the voters several years ago for half the cost that it is today. I don't know what the actual dollar amount was, but I'm going to say half the cost, right? This is only going to increase as time goes on. If it's not addressed, and in 10 years from now or 5 years from now when this comes up again, you know, it's not a $30 million price tag, it's going to be a $40 million price tag. That's the reality.
And I think if you go back to that last vote, there was a lot more state aid that was available for us also for the schools. So that helped offset the cost.
Thank you.
You know, and as we push the aging infrastructure more and more, our repair costs are just going to get higher and higher.
Yep.
So, I mean, that $100,000 line item that we talked about for capital, you know, repair reserves is not going to take care of anything. So we're going to find ourselves in a worse spot. So we're just at a point of accumulation over the years of neglect and repair and trying to push it down the road a little bit further. But to the point now that we have to address a lot of items at once, and they're costly. You know, and all of us sitting here are taxpayers, and we know the impact of it.
I think to that note, I think what we really need to do is also, as we're moving through toward the end of this initial phase, is to set up, you know, what our projection of our meetings are going to look like going forward. So we can do maintenance on this so we don't get back into this position again.
Yeah.
You know, barring votes that we can't control, but at least keeping up with the improvement plan and, you know, maybe working to get that information out to folks and, you know, make it maybe not more palatable isn't probably the right way to describe it, but at least more educated as these things come up, and maybe these things won't fester this way again.
Because in reality, I mean, we're going to bring some of these forth from the Board of Selectmen and from the school board as warrant articles, and some will pass, some will fail. And as they fail, we're going to have this living document, how we're going to push it down to keep the path going. Because we've got to keep this ongoing. You can't sit on a shelf and just collect dust.
Yeah. And I think we talked about at the beginning also, you know, Ms. Cutter just brought up that from some of the input of different items like sidewalks, it doesn't mean that next year that those can't be added in to the capital plan at some point in time, and other items that, you know, the public desires to be put on this, at least to have discussion. I mean, we did have all departments here, and they had the opportunity to add those items, and they chose not to.
Well,
Yeah.
they may not be a priority for the department.
Right.
Yeah.
And that may not be either in another year from now, but I mean, at least that they'll know that there's public opinion out there that, you know, would like at least some conversation on it.
Right.
You know, and at the public hearing, we'd love to hear input from the public of what's on here and what else they'd like to have added to it. And is there a different prioritization, and is there a different cadence they'd like to see things?
And I think, you know, so I think this is, you know, this committee, I think is so important, because if we, you know, if this continues, I mean, to make it a consistent, you know, ongoing process, I think that will definitely help to maybe try to relieve some of the, you know, the problems that, you know, or maybe some of the Band-Aids, as you call them, that continue to fester. So, so I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think having this committee to work on these ideas and work on these discussions of these issues, and what are the priorities and the needs, I think is certainly something that needs to continue.
Every single year, you're going to have, you will accomplish something. You will have setbacks. You will have gifts. You know, you can, if I call it a gift, sometimes property or equipment's destroyed, it's covered by insurance, and you're able to replace something sooner than later. You know, I don't know if that's a good term to call as a gift, but but that kind of stuff happens. It starts to move numbers around. Warrant articles fail, and then it can have a domino effect on the priorities of the department. They may say, okay, the front end loader failed. I can't go after the front end loader next year. I really need the 2 plow trucks that didn't get past the last 2 years. And so that's why this committee really, if you want this document to be an effective tool, you do need to keep it alive every single year.
Agreed.
So on that note, I guess Jay seems to have all the process answers. So I will ask him, is there a way to, I know we're putting this together and this will be the first cut. Is it something that gets amended? or how would this become a more living document and be added to or detracted from based on warrant article, pass or fail, and then any other items that piquing public interest?
I clearly, and there's more than one way to go about it, but I think a logical thing to do would be after town meeting concludes, you'll have a good idea, obviously, of what's happened in terms of warrant articles and priorities, and that would be the time I think it would make sense for the committee to start meeting again. And I'm assuming that also departments will have an opportunity to reassess. You may see new proposals come in. Many communities do revisit it annually. Some do it every other year. Maybe feeling it's doesn't need quite that annual review. But I would suggest really considering picking it up again after next time meeting.
My view, I don't want to jump the gun here. I know we're about to get to a vote on the dollars, right? But my view would be this should be a quarterly process. Annual seems too long. If you keep up with the quarterly process, and that would bring our next official committee. We have a few others that we got to talk to, right? But our next official meeting in January, by then we'll have a good understanding of what is actually going to warrant, right? And then the next one will be April, which will be just after town vote, right? And then you'll have an understanding of what actually passed. And if you keep that cadence, right, that quarterly meeting, you'll always be in that cycle. And that to me makes a lot of sense, whether it's a 30-minute meeting, or quicker than that, right? At least you're touching base. Yes, this is still a priority. No, it's not. And it's adjusting. So you're talking 4 times a year.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We should learn from the past, right? Don't let it sit on the shelf and collect dust and then turn into this. And I think, the other thing I think, at least for me personally, I think we've all kind of learned some interesting things along this path, kind of juggle, all these different things and, what's meaningful to who and what the actual needs are. And I think, the more this happens, the better we'll get at it and the more efficient the whole cycle and even the numbers will become over time as well.
So before we vote on any dollars, if I may, I know Chief Sargent's been with us this whole time. I didn't know if the chief had anything to add on public comment or anything to add in addition to the police department that we may want to consider.
Absolutely. So, I'll open it up to public comment. Chief Sargent, I'm sorry that you had to, we had to wait so long to get to you, but welcome aboard. Do you have any comments you'd like to make this evening? Anything that you heard, anything that you'd like to address?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, committee members. Thank you for your input. I'm glad to get to listen to all the thoughts. We continue to explore all our options. I think I've made it very clear that my goal as a department head is to meet the best interest of the town. And, during one of our meetings, I talked about that I'm not trying to compete against the school or any other department. It's to work with all the department heads, all the board, and to meet the best interests of our citizens. And, I've been tasked with some further research. We're doing that. I'm not ready to present anything at this time. Initially, I would say that phase 2, in addition to the new fire station, is the most cost-effective and best option. But at a later date, I'll be able to present you with more concrete information and numbers to support that opinion. So I think in terms of the comments coming in, I think, we all know as professionals that blind surveys, how we rate them, how you take the information, you're going to get feedback. And, there's also other people who don't take the survey who have an opinion. But I think, I'm happy to continue to work and provide this committee and the town with the best information. And I would just highlight, like what was stated as it relates to a school or a new police department or new fire trucks or whatever it is, the longer we wait, the need doesn't go away, the cost historically goes up. So I would just add on to that, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to, know that I'm here supporting this committee, supporting the movement, happy to answer questions. And if anyone has anything for me, I really don't have much else to add at this time.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, chief.
Appreciate
my
your
pleasure.
input.
Well,
Is there anybody else from the public out there that would like to comment?
Mr. Chair, there is nobody else online.
Okay, thank you, John. All right. So, anybody have anything before we,
I'd like to make a motion.
okay,
Accept the dollar amount of $13,973,552 for the town of Litchfield Municipal six-year plan,
6-year plan.
capital improvement plan.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Do I have discussion?
Just to confirm, that's the right dollar amount? 13, I didn't hear it all, but
13,973,552.
973,552. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
All
no?
right.
Total project cost.
First dollar amount is for 6 years, and then
Oh,
the other amount
Yep,
is after
yep.
6.
Yeah.
Okay.
total 6, yeah. 16,723,978.
Hold on, I heard 13,973.
13,9.
That's why I'm asking the question here before you vote on the number.
13 million is the total project cost. First number is 6-year. And then the last column is the balance after 6 years. So we're voting on the whole thing, correct? Total dollar amount for projects. Because you're not going to like stop paying for a project for 5 years and then stop come the 6th year, the 7th year.
Well, no, then it's rolled into the operating budget.
The one I'm looking at has 6-year total cost rolled up at 16,723,978. And then it has total project costs after that of 42,457,181.
That's the school.
That's the whole thing rolled up. Municipal and school bottom.
That's
line.
both.
No, because the school alone is 28 million.
Jay, what numbers do you see from the master schedule that you've been keeping?
So if you are looking at just municipal, it's 13,973,552.
Okay.
And then if you go down to the school total, it's 28,483,629. And then the combined total is 42,457,181.
Okay, that was the number I was looking at, is the combination of the two.
Okay. So 13,973,552, 28,483,629 is the school, combined 42,457,181.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
See her.
So I made the motion. Did I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, there's a second and discussion is made. So this is going to be specifically on the municipal part, correct?
Correct.
Correct. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 500. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion on the school side for the 6-year capital improvement plan of $28,483,629.
You have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Do I have discussion? All right. All those in favor signify of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 500. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Do we want to do a bottom line motion too or not?
That's what we could. We just, I don't think it's necessary. We just approve both of them.
Okay.
Unless that number's different.
Hopefully Hopefully not.
Unless we're going back to the 42,000. Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to add? So I guess in terms of scheduling,
Yes.
what's the next plan of attack?
So we were evaluating the calendar here to my left at our last meeting, and just kind of, planning backwards and looking at various dates and when things will need to be submitted in terms of approvals. And the dates that we were talking about were today, September 10th, being our next CIPC meeting, September 15th, which I believe is the next planning board meeting. And at that time, doing a presentation, we nominated yourself.
Inform me of that the last meeting. I was very touched.
That's what happens when you're not here, right? So,
I saw him at the planning, but by the way, you've been nominated.
exactly. No, I mean, all joking aside, right? If, I think this committee is glad to support you in any way you need. But the idea is the September 15th is when there's a presentation to the planning board of everything that this committee's talked about and decisions made. The 23rd would be a public hearing, followed by the 28th, which I believe we're on the agenda for the next select board session.
Okay.
And if for some reason we needed to bump it, it would have been October 15th.
Correct. Yep.
As the alternative. Okay.
Right, but the idea is if, we can I know it's only a short time, but if there's some type of presentation or PowerPoint deck that we can put together in preparation for the planning board meeting, that can be reused certainly for the public hearing as well as the Board of Selectmen meeting. And that's the information that can then be disseminated out to the public so they really understand on a page by page whatever all the details are that we went through.
Makes sense. Okay. And Jay, maybe you can help me out with that and we can do something for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Sounds good.
So for your September 15th planning board meeting, Mr. Chair, would you like the support of this committee? Would you like us to plan on dialing in? Do you want to run with it yourself? I'll defer to you on that.
If I'll open it up. If you folks want to join in on the meeting, you're welcome to do that. I will give the presentation. If you want to chime in and make additional comments or whatever, you're happy to do that. So I don't, we're happy to have you, come to the meeting if you want. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything else we need to discuss?
So I think just in terms of cadence, I'd like to, just put a stamp on the frequency this committee will meet. I know a moment ago we were talking about, I think you were here. I know you stepped away from it. We talked about a quarterly cycle.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, if that makes sense, then that's what I would like to propose we move forward with.
Okay.
So that
Are
would
we
put our
voting
next,
on that?
what's that?
I said, are we voting on that? Put it in stone?
So what that would do is our next meeting would be the public hearing, right, on the 23rd
Right.
as a group.
Yes.
And from that point, you'd like to establish the cadence being quarterly.
Being quarterly. So the next session would be in January and then in April.
Right.
And stagger it from there.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I would agree. Did you want to take a vote on it? I mean, certainly.
I don't think we need to. I think,
We
we can just schedule
go by
it.
that.
Troy has it. We can schedule it accordingly.
It's all in Troy now.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody think anything else? Troy, do you have anything else?
No, nothing else to
Jay,
add.
do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. If there's nothing, Steve, do you have anything?
No, I am good, thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
I have a motion.
Second.
A second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, motion passes 5-0. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the 23rd, public hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks.